Hey y'all, it's Kristen, and I got a question about tarot and astrology, so I thought I would answer it here. And the question was, Kristen, I'm curious about how or if you are integrating astrology with your tarot readings. And if so, what type of astrology do you find most helpful to study specifically for working with tarot? So I really don't do much integrating tarot and astrology. If you're kind of new to tarot, you probably have seen that there are tarot correspondences for astrology, for the zodiac signs and for the planets. And if astrology is something that you're really into, I would suggest, learning those. I think it's easier to learn tarot if you know astrology, and look at those connections. That might be your entryway, or to learn astrology if you know tarot, like using those correspondences as a bridge for your understanding of one system or the other. And actually it may help you understand both systems a little bit better. So while I don't do anything in a formal way integrating astrology and tarot, I will say that if you have, for example, a Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, particularly this version of it, and not necessarily a clone, you're going to see tarot correspondences in this deck. And so if you're learning tarot and you already know astrology, you're probably going to be like, hey, there's a such and so here. I wonder if this is a correspondence. So I will say that I tend to be very flexible with that. If I'm reading the cards and I notice something, like if it strikes me, if it's like, yeah, this is, for example, Justice card. That's I'm actually a Libra, so if I get justice, it's probably means something more than just justice. It's probably also relating to me as a Libra. But even if you aren't a Libra, you can see the scales. So you might already know that Libra, the scales represent Libra. And so if this is what catches your eye, then you might think Libra. So depending on the question and the context, but if somebody was asking maybe about who's going to be my next soulmate, or who am I looking for, what, who should I date? Maybe this is telling you about a Libra personality. So that's how I would make that connection. So I will say that the astrology is still, the download is in there. And so I might use the astrology, but I don't use it in a really structured or formal way. But let me just show you a couple of other cards. So Strength represents the zodiac sign of Leo. So guess what? Here's the lion, right? They're just going to show up here. Gemini is associated with the Lovers. And even though they're not twins, we can see how you might look at that as twins, just seeing the couple here. And then Aries is associated with the Emperor card. And if you look closely here, you will see these ram's heads, right there on his throne. So if you really look closely at some of these cards, you'll be able to see astrology correspondences, especially if you're already very familiar with astrology. Now, I will say, if you're studying tarot and you want to know more about astrology, or kind of get your feet wet and just learn some basics, this is going to be an exercise for you to do. This is what I would recommend, so that you really start to understand it, integrate it, and see what your chart actually looks like. So I would say actually make your chart. I will always recommend that very beginners use a whole sign, I think I'm saying that right, whole house chart. So when you pick you can pick different charts to use. Placidus is one that's like a main or default chart system, but I would recommend whole signs because to me, it's just easier for people to recreate. It's just easier for your eyes to see and understand it. And let me show you an example. And basically what I'm saying is to make your own chart. You could do this on a piece of paper, just drawing circles. And so I've made mine, of course, into a spinner. If you know anything about me, you already know about how much I love a good spinner. But this is my chart. So that means everything is in the positions for my personal birth chart. So the first house, I have Libra also in my first house. And so if you look at this chart, this is my chart. Now, I have a template for this in my Mystic Crafts class, and I'll leave the link down below in case you want to fill this out. But basically it's a blank template and you would fill it out and color it in. The houses are already, come a little closer so you can see the houses are already in there. And if you don't know about houses, get you a little bit of information on houses, because what I've done is I've written in my own summary for each house right here. And then for each house, I wrote in what my zodiac is, okay, again, for my chart for each of the houses. And then as a third layer, I added the colors. You can see the orange, the blue, and the gray, and the green. Those are my colors for the elements. So there are 4 elements: fire, earth, air, and water, that each of those zodiac signs falls into. So I think this is a great exercise. For some of you, you might be like, this is overwhelming, it's too much. Do it when you're ready. But I think when you make just this much of the chart, we haven't added the planets yet, just this much of the chart, it will help you. And then the next thing that you can do is add for each of these zodiac signs. Next, you can add the tarot correspondences. If you have this book by Mary K. Greer, Tarot for Yourself, you have some of this information already. So on one page, there is the zodiac card information. So these are the correspondences for the zodiac. So again, you got to figure out where do these fall on your chart? But you can see the different correspondences. Okay, so then you would write maybe your zodiac, your tarot correspondences on the outer side. I'm just going to show you an example from the same book. This is in another chapter, but you can see it's very similar to what I've done. So you can see these house numbers, you can see the signs, and then the correspondences with the tarot. So the tarot correspondences are on the outermost wheel. And that way, I think it will help you to get a feel, not only for your chart, but also for the tarot correspondences. And then when you're ready, put this in the right way, then you can add in the planets. And then you can go back in and write the tarot correspondences for each planet. Okay, and once you've done that, like I said, you do it in one chart, just keep adding layers as you learn, as you figure things out. And I really feel like that's one of the best ways to learn astrology. And again, if you already are studying tarot, you want to kind of pull them together. I just think that those two work together as an exercise. So I hope that gives you some information about how I use astrology with tarot. Like I said, I don't do it in any real formal way, but knowing astrology, and I've been studying astrology probably 25 years at least, I will say I feel like there's so much of it. I know that it's all in there, but just recalling things sometimes is a little bit difficult for me. But I find that when you know it, like when you've been studying it or when you are trying to study it, incorporate it, it will come up when you need it. So if it, depending on what the card is, you might suddenly notice a astrological aspect of that card and you can use that information. So hopefully that helps. Thanks for asking your question.